The there's a new effect that's been proven that the one half spin um, does not have the same free fall in gravity, and this proves that general relativity has to be unified with quantum physics um, because of this discrepancy um, with general relativity, and the one half spin is analyzed as a wave. So when they did the experiments using neutrons, and when you diffract the neutron with a silicon crystal, so it's self-entangled as a wave, then you can see the one half spin directly. And this is the experiment that my quantum physics professor first devised in 1967. And so this effect of a spin gravity coupling is a inherently non-local effect. And so what this means is that at this spin exists outside of 4D space-time, and it changes the free fall, and so it's actually anti-gravity. And I already quoted the weak measurements stating that the the negative mass particle, or negamass is what they're calling it in the weak measurements based on entangled photons, are gravitationally repulsive. It's a newly discovered gravitationally repulsive force. So it's also, when you split the neutron, so it's self-entangled, you're relying on the frequency of the wave function because you don't have any vector yet as a particle. So this is a subquantum. That's the same as the weak measurement experiment. So this newly discovered spin gravity coupling proves that there is a non-local anti-gravity newly discovered force to reality that requires general relativity to be unified with quantum physics. And this one half spin is based on the discrete, non-commutative frequencies, that the transition quantum frequencies that are a difference between the photons, the photon difference as one half spin, that was first discovered by Heisenberg, studying the Ritz-Rydberg combination principle, but it was also discovered by Louis de Broglie when he was critiquing relativity using the photon for his law of phase harmony. And so the Planck's constant as the Planck's wavelength being inverse to the momentum, so the frequency is directly proportional to the momentum of the particle. But since because that Planck's, the de Broglie wavelength. Sorry, the de Broglie, the Planck using Planck's constant. That was derived from the law of phase harmony. And so what that means is Planck's constant as the average energy of light actually covers up the non-commutative time and frequency of 1/2 spin, because Planck was actually using equal tempered music as his inspiration to create his Planck's constant. So when he converted the energy to joules, the frequency to joules, he canceled out the time, and so by canceling out the time, he covered up the fact that the energy is inherently non-commutative and non-local. So when de Broglie was critiquing relativity, he realized there has to be a second time from the future that's guiding matter, and this became known as it's a relativistic quantum coherence, as the phase harmony. It has a name in German. It's like zitterbewegung or something like that. And so that's actually the 1/2 spin. That is the 1/2 spin because it's non-commutative, and it's also discrete. And this is what Alain Kahn figured out, is that before space-time exists, there's this direct time frequency that so that also explains black holes, as Gerard de Hooft and Roger Penrose both realized about black holes. And so what happens is you have most physicists are stuck on relativity, and so quantum field theory is also stuck on relativity, since Richard Feynman was stuck on relativity also. And so when you have renormalization, Richard Feynman was assuming you could have this a derivative or a differential, for the velocity and position, but that violates the Heisenberg uncertainty principle. And as math professor Lou Kaufman explains, you actually have this non-commutative asymmetric time shift whenever you make a measurement between position and velocity. So that means that standard calculus was never accurate. It's not a true explanation of reality. So that gets us into gravitational entropy, which I'll drink some water now. So just I'll have the links in the description on this new spin gravity coupling effect, and they call it different names. They call it the Stern-Gerlach gravity effect. They call it the spin gravity clock effect, something like that. But of course, they don't use non-commutativity when they analyze it. But the point being that the 1/2 spin is inherently non-local based on the non-commutativity of the photons as a transition frequency. And And so you cannot have a continuum of space-time, and also the continuum is assumed in quantum in when you try to renormalize the for quantum field theory. Any kind of field is assumed to be a continuum. So the non-commutativity is also the basis of life on Earth, and that's why the non-commutativity self amplifies into the macro scale in quantum biology. So that's why science has created biological annihilation of life on Earth, because of our inaccurate foundation of symmetric commutative geometry using the space-time continuum model. And these latest experiments just prove that the truth of anti-gravity is actually the non-commutative non-locality. So the big point of this is Luke Hoffman explains is that the time is an algebraic process, and this is what Basil J. Hiley also explains as well. So the inherent non-locality before space-time is based on time as an asymmetric process that's fundamental and absolute as a harmonization of the time and frequency. And because it's asymmetric, there's no center of mass for the photon. And so the law of phase harmony from de Broglie actually proves, Gerard de Hooft and Martin van der Mark in their article, Light is Heavy, they prove that all matter is actually made of photons, but the photons don't have a center of mass, and therefore there's an intrinsic 1/2 spin due to the non-commutative space-time. So that couples that's what unifies general relativity with quantum physics. And it, as Alain Kahn explains, there's no gauge theory, there's no gauge analysis, because you're dealing with space-time directly through the non-commutative time and frequency. So the non-commutative time and frequency is before space-time, and then it creates space-time, or what is perceived as space-time. And so he's saying our brain is always doing this Fourier reverse transform on space-time itself, or creating our illusion of 4D space-time as randomness from this deeper non-commutative discrete time frequency process. And so the imaginary number as the square root of -1 actually originates from the discrete matrices math that Heisenberg corroborated with his analysis of the transition frequencies in the Ritz-Rydberg combination principle. So you have the matrices of discrete numbers of 0 and 1 and -1, and since it's pure time, it doesn't exist as a wavelength in space. So it's just time as period and not time using spatial frequency. So the frequency is also not tied to wavelength as a spatial frequency. So you can have two different kinds of frequency. It's just a frequency of time directly. So that's why this eludes physics, but it explains non-Western meditation, as Eddie Oceans realized, is that it's based on non-commutativity for non-Western meditation. And so that's pretty much the latest research that I'm passing on to the internet. I will have the links in the description for this spin gravity coupling effect. Thanks.